earlier in the sessions that we had and the question and answer that we had from the floor before, which was extremely worthwhile, we decided to consolidate this discussion. So we had the speeches going directly to the roundtable discussion. A number of different issues have been brought up, but I don't want them to be driven only by my questions from the podium, but questions from you. This is going to follow some introductory thoughts from you, Fuad. If you want to pick up the floor here on making the link, because this has been a discussion primarily of strategic energy alliances that are emerging around the world, even alternative sources of energy, as brought up by the Russian Federation and brought up by Dr. Reza from Iran here, and some of the ideas that you brought up in terms of how do we handle strategic energy alliances into the future. But from the human rights perspective, what is the responsibility and the role of different governments, for example, like Saudi Arabia, to advance the discussion of strategic alliances and reaching out to the people in the core of what sort of future we're leaving the next generation? Do you want to pick it up from there?
Thank you. Thank you. I hope you still have a couple of minutes for me, 5 minutes maximum. And I want to take you from the fact that Saudi Arabia and the Gulf states, as you agree with me, I hope, need to diversify their economies because the oil age is basically on the verge of being over, and because we all need to address the issue of climate change. It is happening. We have more droughts and floods, and we have environmental refugees already happening. And this climate change has also an impact in the Arab world, in the Gulf. Look at the warm weather you have, the weather extremes you have in the Gulf, and on top of it, you also already have a beginning of sea level rise. As we all know, the Gulf real estate sector plans in the next 7 years investments in the average of about $500 billion. If you continue along the same level of, or as business as usual now, this will be totally unsustainable. To put it bluntly, maybe in Arabic also, هنفوت بالحيط بكل معنى الكلمة. We will hit the wall. And the reason is because today's economy is based on gas and oil. This is totally unsustainable for the future because of the impact, as I said, on the climate. And this issue is also a human rights issue and a peace issue. The challenge now facing all these nations in the Gulf here, especially Saudi Arabia and also I think Iran and others, the big ones especially, is how to develop at the same time guarantee that future generations live in a healthy and sustainable environment. And the solution, in my opinion, is massive investments in solar alternative energies. If you want to see one positive example in the area, go to Abu Dhabi and look at the project called Masdar. Abu Dhabi decided to go sustainable, and this is a strategic decision, not only because they want to diversify the economy, it's because they want to survive economically in 30, 40, 50 years. And they've established a company called Masdar. Masdar is a strategic decision of the state of Abu Dhabi to invest billions of dollars in the next couple of years in renewable technologies, and they want to construct the first zero-emission, zero-waste city called Masdar City near Abu Dhabi Airport. And what they are doing also is measuring the ecological footprint. The ecological footprint is basically measuring how much a state consumes every year from natural resources. And that will help. If you do that, then you can develop sustainable policies. This will help shape policies in support of social and environmental justice. And it will support, of course, values through partnerships and alliances, because Masdar is a strategic alliance with many European, American, German companies to develop environmental policy in Saudi Arabia. Now, to finish my small little lecture, the question now is what is Saudi Arabia going to do to go sustainable? Can it develop while allowing citizens to fulfill a basic human right, which is living in dignity without destroying the foundations of future generations? I mean, we cannot now just live as if we don't want to leave anything left in 30, 40 years for our children and grandchildren. And if you want to take it seriously, you really have to seriously consider to start producing less oil. I know it sounds a bit crazy, but you have to start producing less and less oil and stretch the oil you have under the ground for future generation. that will help the climate change issue. But at the same time, in order not to have a sudden drop of income, you have to invest massively, parallel to less oil production, massively in solar production and solar energy, and you can export energy outside the world. The beautiful thing about the Arab world is that we have vast areas without population inside, with lots of sun. With a couple of 100 kilometers used to construct solar power plants, you can have all the energy you need from solar powers, and you can export it. And oil can be produced, as I said, less and less. So to finish my point here, I would like to say that I'm very confident that common sense will prevail, and that Saudi Arabia, maybe even Iran, because you need big countries in the region to push for that. I think that I'm confident that that Saudi Arabia, as a political and economic heavyweight, can lead the Arab region into a sustainable future. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, if I can have the lights turned back on, please, because I want to open the floor to questions. We have some hands up. I thought we would get them. If I can have the microphones here. Number 4, we can go to the first gentleman on my left, and then we've got a question here as well. Ladies, we have some questions over there. I'm glad to see your hands up. That's always good.
Thank you.
Okay, good. I just ask you, because we're at the end of the day, and I want to keep the energy and the flow up. Direct the question to one of the 3 experts that we have in the panel, okay. And then we can and be direct with the question would help us a lot.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm Khalid Maimani from KAU, the business department. This is addressed to Mr. Robertson, since he is the private sector man here. I'm quoting Mr. Thomas Friedman, who says the person who would come with a solution to the problems of energy might not come from the Seven Sisters, because they are heavily involved in the fossil fuel and specifically oil. So I'm wondering if he agree with that, and to what extent, if he does not agree with the statement of Mr. Friedman, that what has oil companies injected as in funds. For example, the price of oil has tripled, but the price of silicon is a lot higher than the 3 folds. So there is no real efforts done into the solar research as such. Thank you.
Perfect. No, thank you for the question. Are the major oil companies the best to manage the investment into alternative energies? What I think is really at the heart of your question. Peter?
Well, you said the answers wouldn't come from the Seven Sisters. Chevron is now 3 of the Seven Sisters. And I think many of the answers will come from the oil companies, but certainly not all of them. There's immense amounts of money being invested by all. We just heard about the Saudi government commitment to invest in green energy. So there's investments being made on all accounts. But for instance, this particular company that I represent, we're the largest geothermal company in the world. Now, it's still not very big in the scale of what's needed for the world energy, but we are the largest geothermal company in the world, and we'll continue to make investments in Indonesia and the Philippines in the Ring of Fire, where there's lots of steam in the ground to produce geothermal energy. We're in the we're spending a vast amount of money on cellulosic conversions, so cellulosic ethanol. Vast amount of money is not a fair comment, but we're spending as much money as the universities can realistically use in our part of the world on a variety of different approaches to converting waste into cellulose. We're advertising and advocating a lot, and I mentioned in my speech the need for energy efficiency, which frankly I think is the biggest source of new energy and clean energy that is available to mankind today. There's huge amounts of ability to become more efficient. Our company's become 27% more efficient. I mentioned so that over 15 years, that's a couple of percent a year. If the world continues to get, if there's real pressure put, and prices certainly do that, if there's pressure put on energy efficiency, we can generate a whole lot of new energy. So my answer is it's going to come from a whole range of places. It's going to come from oil, it's going to come from gas, it's going to come from nuclear, it's going to come from biofuels, it's going to come from geothermal energy. We're going to need all of those things But the thing we need to work on the first and the most is efficiency.
Okay. Fuad, you wanted to go next?
Maybe a small answer to you also. I agree partly with what he said, that also big companies will be working on that issue. In the United Arab Emirates and Abu Dhabi, Shell is very heavily involved in that. BP all over the world is very strong also in solar power. American companies are not so strong when it comes to renewable energies, when it comes to solar power. It's more BP and Shell. General Electric is very strong now in wind power. They have bought many, many companies, and they are now de facto the largest producer of wind energy in the world. And General Electric is a big producer of nuclear power plants, which I personally regard as no solution. It is no solution. It's one of the most dangerous ways of producing energy. I cannot but warn Arab states going the nuclear way. I think Iran, even if their plan is only to go nuclear for so-called civilian purposes, I think this is a wrong way. They don't know what's going to happen with the nuclear waste afterwards. One little incident there and you have a disaster. Ecologically, it's not like a normal plant. So I do believe that the big solution is, as Mr. Robbins has said, is energy efficiency. There's a lot of potential there, and renewable energy. Both pass together and you have a solution. And to be honest, you have no other choice. Today I opened Al Hayat newspaper, and on page 5 or 6, the economic part, there was a study from Abu Dhabi saying that by 2010, if you go in Saudi Arabia along the same usual path of development and oil and gas and so on, you will have 35% less energy and water to consume. You don't know where to get it. You're expanding so heavily, you already have gas shortages now. Where are you heading with business as usual? I think it's a disaster, a drama unfolding.
Dr. Atta, I'd like to get your thoughts. If you can bring the microphone closer to you, that would be great. About this pursuit of nuclear energy, partially geopolitical, or is it driven entirely for the need? You have vast natural gas and oil resources. Is it wise to go nuclear, or perhaps an option put up by Fuad here, and that is to use solar energy, for example, as an alternative to the path that's being pursued by this government?
There is no doubt that solar energy or geothermal or wind energy, they are all interesting sources for research and also development. But being realistic, because we are not only scholars here, rather we are business people, we are those who are dealing with the reality of their life. I don't think that any scientist or any expert confirms that you can alternate wind energy or solar energy or geothermal energy to fossil energy at earliest possible time. It takes time. As I mentioned, now the projects mostly are in pilot scale. Rather, the nuclear energy has been experienced for decades, and even there are many research regarding how to avoid from its waste and the disasters like what happened in Ukraine. So this is the reason that nowadays, particularly after rising the price of oil, almost all countries, including United States, France, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, many other countries, are looking very seriously toward nuclear energy and nuclear powerhouses. Some of them are constructing it, some of them are planning to increase the percentage of the electricity which is originated from nuclear powerhouses. Some of them are